It's not just Monday today, everybody. It's Mock Draft Monday. Ravens fans, get ready. 7-round mock draft for another Mock Draft Monday. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. Just got back from being out of town for a week, so videos should return. But if you want to see more Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. If you haven't seen a mock draft video before, how I do this is a 7-round no trade mock draft. Put it out every single Monday until the NFL draft starts. And I like to get your guys' opinions and feedback on all the players that I draft. I've started watching a lot more players. Obviously, the combine just happened. And I don't think the mock draft simulators have adjusted for combine results. But I don't think I took anybody. Like, maybe I took some people that could have risen, but you know, I wasn't trying to abuse the system. We'll say that. I used PFF for this one. But in the comment section down below, let me know recent mock drafts you guys have had and players that you want me to check out if you think they could be viable for the Baltimore Ravens. But let's jump right into it. Let's talk about it. First off, round 1, pick 30. I went with Jordan Morgan, tackle out of Arizona. Now, I did a couple of mock drafts throughout last week while I was traveling, just trying to see like different strategies that I felt like would make the most sense. And this is a very deep wide receiver class, very deep tackle class, as well as cornerback class. And so my thought was, okay, what do I want to focus on? And in my opinion, the best value in the second round is going to be at that wide receiver spot. And so as much as I like some of the round 1 wide receivers that could be available, in this draft, Brian Thomas Jr. was available, who I like. A.D. Mitchell, who I know a lot of people love, was available. And my favorite wide receiver for the Ravens, Keon Coleman, was available. And even after Keon Coleman's combine, I still have him. He's one of the best receivers in this class. He's going to be an absolute stud. But in my opinion, I was like, I think we can get better value at wide receiver in the second round versus the first. And so I'm going to take that chance. Even though if I was watching the draft and EDC drafted A.D. Mitchell or Brian Thomas or Keon Coleman, I'd be super excited. Like, don't get me wrong, I won't be upset at all if we don't go tackle. Tackle is not a fun pick, but I felt like get it out of the way. You get that 5th-year option on the tackle, which can be very impactful. And that, because we saw what happened with Orlando Brown Jr., and then you're able to have a certified left or right tackle for the next 4 or 5 years. But there were other players available. I watched Chop Robinson. I watched Darius Robinson. I didn't like Chop Robinson very much. Darius Robinson, I don't have a problem with him, but I don't think he's a round 1 player. And so I just didn't think it was worthwhile. And there weren't any cornerbacks that I felt were worth a round 1 pick on for me to take. But next up, round 2, pick 62. I ended up going with one of my favorite wide receivers, probably my favorite wide receiver in the country last year. Now, the 40-yard dash record holder, Xavier Worthy. If you don't know, I watch a lot of Texas football, and I've been talking about Xavier Worthy for a couple of years now. And I remember his freshman year and coming into his sophomore year, they're talking about him, and his comp was Hollywood Brown. And I can see why they said that. Both crazy, fast, speedster, small, agile, both very good tracking the ball when it's in the air. A little bit of a drop problem for both of them. But he's not Hollywood. He is a different player than him. He's very good after the catch. He does play with physicality after the catch, but not reckless physicality. He does understand his body size is a little bit smaller, but he's not like remember Hollywood, guys? Hollywood was catch the ball, see defender, jump on the ground. Like, that's what he did. Xavier Worthy's a player that will try and fight through a little bit of contact to try and get the big play. And he was very, very excellent in screen passes this last season. And when you look at what the Ravens offense is trying to do, having him and Zay in the screen pass game, and both of them having speed to take off the defense, especially Xavier Worthy, and both are able to track the ball pretty well, I think that's a really good fit. And the other thing is, Lamar Jackson appears like he really likes throwing to the smaller receivers. And I talked about that when Hollywood was there. I was like, for some reason, like, Lamar just really likes throwing to Hollywood. For some reason, he sees the smaller guys better. He hits them more. Maybe it's because he likes the rack ability of some of the guys that the Ravens have had, but I feel like Xavier Worthy kind of fits into that mold. And I know we'd have a smaller wide receiver room, and I know a lot of people want a big body. We do have tight ends that are big bodies, and we don't have, like, we no longer have Greg Roman. We didn't have trouble scoring in the red zone like we did in years past. And a lot of people were like, well, if we had a big body, Lamar could go to him in the end zone. That wasn't an issue last year. We were able to run the ball effectively in the red zone and utilize certain packages to get guys like Pat Ricard and Nelson Aguilar touchdowns on the backside of plays. And I think that Todd Monken could do a really good job with Xavier Worthy. So, really like Xavier Worthy. My grade on him initially before the combine was, he could go end of round 1, but I think he'll go round 2, and I think he'll be a good pick in round 2. My expectation is he may go late round 1. He's probably going to go early round 2. I don't know if he'll fall to 62, but if he doesn't fall and he gets drafted early, maybe a guy like Xavier Legette, ends up falling. So, I think wide receiver in the second round is definitely an option. Next up, round 3, pick 93, I went with edge rusher Javon Solomon out of Troy. This was a guy I wasn't expecting to like initially, smaller school guy, but he had 17 sacks last year, and I was like, I gotta watch him. And first thing when I was watching him was, this guy looks a little small. I had not looked at any measurables before watching him, but really productive. He was getting after running backs. He was getting after the quarterback. He was, relentless effort. He was able to bend around. He was, getting a quick get off. And I was like, this guy's still productive. And production in college to the NFL is obviously a little bit different, but his size didn't appear to be a hindrance to him at all. I think he can work in as, a backup edge rusher and developmental player for the Ravens. And he was a guy that he wasn't lining up, all the way outside of the tackle. He was lining up over the tackle, right? And he was going head to head, and he was able to get by guys. And so I think he could be a good option with some high upside. But obviously, he's kind of a boomer bust because you don't know how that size is going to translate. But he was able to produce very, very well in college. Next up, I picked this guy plenty of times before, Kalen Carson out of Wake Forest. Cornerback, did not participate in the combine. I don't believe. I tried to look up stats, but I don't think I didn't see anything, so I don't think he was there. But he's a cornerback that is going to attack the football and attack the players running with the football. He plays against the run pretty well. He's physical. He can play man coverage. He can play zone coverage. He's not undersized. And in my opinion, I think we do need to try and replenish the cornerback room because we don't know who's going to be staying long term and who's going to be healthy. We've had a lot of issues with that. And I think Kalen Carson, just throw him into the mix, have him compete with Pepe and JAD and any other veterans that we decide to keep around. Next pick, 134, 3 picks later. I went with a running back, Trey Benson. Trey Benson, a lot of people have as their RB1 in this draft class. I don't know if I'm putting him as my RB1. I want to watch more Jonathan Brooks, and I want to watch more Blake Corum as well. And I want to watch more Trey Benson. I want to watch the running backs more, essentially all of them. Braylon as well out of Wisconsin. I want to watch him more. A lot of guys I want to watch at the running back spot has not been a priority for me. But Trey Benson, I did watch a lot of Florida State, and he's explosive. He can hit that hole and he can take it 40, 50 yards. And that's something that obviously the Ravens can use. I still want the Ravens to go after Derrick Henry, but we're only drafting him in the 4th round. And I think if we draft him, we're letting Gus go, we're letting J.K. Dobbins go, and we go Derrick Henry, Trey Benson, and Keaton Mitchell with Justice Hill as the special teamer that can also come in and contribute as well. But that would be the core running backs that I would want. And Trey Benson, he had a decent combine. So, definitely like his game. And I think he could absolutely produce. And if we don't get Derrick Henry, Trey Benson could be a number 1, especially if you're using him with a Keaton Mitchell and you have kind of a 1-2 dynamic punch. Both a little bit different. Both can hit the big play, but play a little bit different in their styles. Next pick, I'm not going to lie, guys. This was a misclick, but I don't redo the drafts, and I don't think there's a way to undo the draft pick. So I went with Jaheim Bell out of Florida State. He's a tight end. He's pretty undersized. I honestly knew nothing. I was looking him up to try and find some film on him, and I accidentally clicked draft, and so got him. But at the same time, I was looking at tight ends potentially because I do think the Ravens could go with the tight end spot. I did not love his film. I did not think he was a guy that I was like, oh yeah, we got to get this guy. This is a late round steal. But I figured I'd talk about him a little bit. He's undersized. He is a good pass catcher. He can block, but again, he's only like 6'2", so it's somebody that compared to Chigo Awuzie or Chigo Okonkwo, yeah. Not Chigo. It's Chidobe Awuzie and Chigo Okonkwo. Okonkwo was the Maryland tight end and then ended up going to the Titans. His kind of versatility is kind of what Chigo did for the Titans more his rookie year, where it was a lot of kind of gadget tight end plays. Okay. And I think that, if the Ravens decide to part with Mark Andrews, and use Isaiah Likely as their primary tight end and Charlie Kolar is the backup, having a tight end that you can throw on the line to block or potentially throw out in, certain pass concepts and he's comfortable as a pass catcher could be a little bit valuable. So I don't want to say that this guy's an absolute scrub. I wouldn't freak out if we drafted him, but it was not my intent to draft him. And then final pick, round 7, pick 248. I think safety is a little bit of a need with the unknowns of, is Geno coming back? Are we keeping Marcus Williams? Obviously, Kyle Hamilton's a rock. He is not leaving. But I went with Keaton Oladapo out of Oregon State. And this was a guy that I think will go a little earlier than the 7th round. I think he could. Safety, he has ball skills. He can play the run. He can play the pass. He's physical. He's got prototypical size, not like crazy production or anything like that, but just like one of those solid safeties that you think could be a solid special teams player and definite backup in the NFL. Think about like a guy like Chuck Clark. We drafted him very late, where it was just like, oh yeah, this guy can play football. That's kind of what I see out of Oladapo, is just a guy that can go out there and he can kind of do whatever you ask out of him as a backup and special teams player. Will he turn into, Kyle Hamilton? No. But could he potentially contribute? Absolutely, and that's really all you're looking for out of a 7th round pick. But I'll run through the list one more time. Let me know in the comment section down below your guys' thoughts on the draft. Jordan Morgan, Xavier Worthy, Javon Solomon, Kalen Carson, Trey Benson, Jaheim Bell, and Keaton Oladapo. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.